Thanks a lot. Can we start with Curtis Samuel? And did he do anything did he hurt or tweak the groin in the game, or is this a precautionary thing for him today?
Well, we're obviously got to be cautious with it, and we'll go from there.
And do you think this will be something like every week that he's going to have to just kind of maybe take it easy early in the week as he? Okay.
We're going to refer to that, okay? Guys, I don't want to get in and give you guys predictions of stuff I don't know. Okay, I have no idea on that stuff.
How did you like what he showed Sunday, and then how the defense maybe responded to his presence on the field?
I like what he showed Sunday. I like the things that he did, and the thing that was really good about it was you saw how it impacted the players around him. You know, and there's a value to guys that have that kind of ability when they're on the field.
Faced Sean Payton a lot while he's been coaching the Saints. I'm curious, what is your relationship with him in terms of respect for what he does, and what is it about Sean Payton coach teams that are tough to play against?
Well, I have a tremendous amount of respect for him and what he's accomplished and things that he does, and year in and year out, he's always been up near the top in terms of his team, in terms of wins and losses, as well as when you look at what they've done in rankings. I mean, he's a very innovative guy. He knows how to attack people. You have to be ready to counter when he does stuff. I mean, he's really good at that in terms of game planning and preparation.
We saw Bubba Tyre out there. What is his role now with Ryan Vermillion not here? And do you kind of have a plan for what you guys are doing while Ryan's not around?
Well, for the most part, Bubba is really just here volunteering. He came in to help out, and that's it. I mean, he's got time, and he would love to, he wanted to come and just help us, so he's volunteering, and for the most part, as far as we're concerned, we're going to do everything pretty much by committee. I go down there and I check in with the trainers, and then I check in with our therapists, and we go from there.
You all signed Chris Blewett to the practice squad. What was the intention there behind that move?
Have another kicker.
Is that kind of like with the having kickers in case there's a COVID issue or Dustin pulls a groin, or is that more so competition for Dustin?
Well, he's on practice squad, so it's really just kind of cautionary.
Ron, I'm not asking about specific guys, but when players on other teams suddenly become available, they get waived or whatever, what's the process for a quick vet so that you can decide, hey, this is worth us looking into, or it's not?
That's a fair question. It really is, because when those players do come up, our pro department right off the bat starts pulling up their reports, and they start looking at tape, and then they'll pass those on to me. They'll pass them on to Martin. They'll pass them on to Marty and Rob, and each one of us will take a look at things. Rob will obviously look at contracts. Marty, Martin, and myself will look at tape, and we'll talk about it. And then from there, we'll pass it on to the position coaches and coordinators if we feel there's a need to go forward with it. And you have to be prepared, and that's one of the nice things. I really like with our kind of our chain of how things happen. Chris Polian will come to us with all the reports. They'll have made a tape or two, or they'll refer to specific games for us to take a look at, and then we'll talk about it.
I know that there would, if you were to look at somebody, there would be adjustments in terms of verbiage and all that sort of thing. Are there things that you can look at it on tape, if it's a guy you haven't really looked at, just to kind of get a quick sense, he could pick this up for us, or he might struggle with this?
Oh, yeah. You look at the way, they handle themselves in terms of getting lined up for plays, how they communicate with the people around them. Those things you're always looking at, and that's always an indicator, or is somebody always pushing them over or moving them up or moving them back? That's an indicator that, okay, he hasn't quite got it. So, yeah, you do look for those types of things, because to your point, will he adapt? Will he grow? Will he get your verbiage?
Ron, you've talked all along about it. It's not just what you're doing. It's not just about this season, but trying to get a sustaining situation here for the long haul. From that perspective, how do you look at what you guys have accomplished so far this year in terms of what you're building for the long haul?
Well, I think for the most part, we're 2-2, and the disappointing part is, you know, is, or maybe the fortunate part is, we still haven't played as well as we're capable. We haven't played the way we want. There are some obviously things that we're still working on getting corrected. But, you know, that's where we are. I mean, to be honest, I mean, I'm just, you know, there's a little bit of frustration sometimes because I know just how much better we can play it, especially based on the way we finished last year. But I know we've got to work to get to where we want to be, so we'll continue to work.
In terms of the building something sustainable, I guess part of that is getting young guys to play. Obviously, you have a lot of young guys playing regardless. I guess how does that go when you're, like you said, still struggling a bit right now? You need young guys to get experience, but then you also need guys to be able to step in and do some things now.
Right, but you also want to rely on some of the veteran guys, you know, and so when we're struggling, you know, and everybody's struggling as a whole, as a unit, and so you just got to keep playing, keep fighting, keep working, and keep practicing. I mean, that's the only way we're going to get better is to practice and practice better too.
In your Monday chat with JP, one of the things you said was you need to look and see if the defensive schemes are overly complex or tough for these guys to execute. Did you come to any conclusions on that? Is there anything you'd like to tweak?
No, I like what we're doing. I do. I think there's a lot of things that we do. I think that there are some things that we can be better at, and there's some things that we most certainly can go ahead and continue to refine and use. It's one of these things that's just kind of, you know, what we're struggling with right now, and we're going to keep working. I mean, again, like I said, we're 2-2, and the thing that we're disappointed is we feel we could be better than that.
And then specific to Chase Young, people are going to see the sack number, obviously, and react to that. Do you have a sense of how would you evaluate his overall performance to date?
Well, when I look at some of the things he's done and look at how people react to him and how people have, you know, basically slowed him down, you know, there's an impact there still. And I think that's one of the things that we just have to be smart about.
You mentioned before the season kind of wanting to play more man defense. It seems like there's a healthy balance, but I'm wondering how you feel about that, how that's been and what you've seen when you guys have played.
Ask me again.
Oh, so you mentioned before the season about wanting to play man a little bit more, and I'm just wondering how you feel that's gone and what you've seen when you guys have been in man versus zone and that sort of thing.
Well, I think we've done some good things in our man coverages. It's hard to sit here and tell you, oh yeah, things are looking great when you look at what we've done in third down, though, and that's where most of our struggles have occurred. You look at some of the first and second down things, especially when it's 0 to 3 yard gain, you feel good about that. And then unfortunately you get in a couple of third down situations and you take a step back and go, man, you know, how can we miss this, or why didn't we do that, as you know? So you just go back to the drawing board and keep working it.
And then with JD and Antonio, I understand like how it varies from like one guy's a conventional runner and one guy's the passer, but how does it, from a coaching perspective, like how does it work when there's two guys with a similar skill set, and how do you balance that? What do you like about that?
Well, when you look at what we do with the backs and the way we use them, you know, each guy has a specific role. We know for the most part Antonio's the first and second down back, but JD can come in and easily do those things. But with his athleticism, quickness, you know, his skill set, third down or second and long situations, you can create the type of matchup you can exploit, and that's what we've seen. You know, they're both very headsy, smart players. You know, they're smart young men, and they understand the dynamics of the game. And so having them in there for their role, so they understand their role, is really what I think when you watch what Scotty does. There's specific things that each guy does extremely well, and we try to balance that by all the time, you know, not all the time that when they're in there, that's what they're going to get. So he'll mix them in. You know, you may see Antonio get a few third down situations. You may see JD come in on a 1st and 10 at the beginning of a series or something like that, because you got to break those tendencies. Because if not, every time, you know, JD comes in, you know you're going to get this. Every time, you know, AG comes in, this is what's happening. So, you know, you have to balance it by, you know, mixing it and not necessarily, you know, allowing them to have a tendency.
Why has it been important for you to maintain confidence in Dustin throughout his ups and downs this season?
Because if I get off on him, it could get worse. You know, I mean, that's just the way it has to be. I mean, it's one of those things, you know, it's not like you're going to go out there, you know, and pluck a kicker that's going to come in and it's going to kick over 80-something%, you know? That's the thing now. You know, you want a little more consistency, especially with the extra points, and he's working on it. And again, it's just one of these things, and hopefully it'll correct it, and we'll go from there.
Is that something you learned in Carolina? You had Graham there I know,
Yep.
for a long time. Is that a byproduct of that?
Yep. You know, it's crazy because if you look at what Graham did throughout the entire Super Bowl year, you know, he was very, very good, very, very consistent, did a lot of good things. We go into the 2016 season, and he gets sporadic and had a rough year. But we stayed with Graham. And then 17, he comes out, and Graham sets the record. So you look at players, and you try to work with them and get a feel and get an understanding. But, you know, sometimes if you quit too soon on a guy, it comes back to get you, too. Because up until we ran into Graham, my first 2 years, I think we went through like 4 kickers before we got lucky with Graham, and we were able to have him there for the next 7 years.
Having been around Terry for, you know, a season and almost a half now, what stands out to you about his preparation each week?
How hard he works. I mean, he takes care of himself first, so how hard he works when he gets his, you know, he's right in the training room, he's getting a little extra work, getting, you know, in the ice tubs, having the therapist work on him. Then you watch him in the meetings, you know, he's near the front, he's attentive, he's got his books out, he's got his notes out, you know, his head's up constantly. Then you go out and you watch him come out and he gets warmed up, and watch him go through that process, and everything he does like he's been in the league for 6, 7, 8 years. I mean, he has the good habits that you want players to have. And when you have good habits like that, you can build on your performance, you know. I used to watch Mike Singletary all the time, the way he prepped, the way he practiced, the way he played. Everything matched. And I see that from young men like Terry, and that's very impressive.
I don't want to get into rankings or anything speculative like that, but just knowingly, do you feel like he's kind of an underrated, unheralded receiver in this league?
I hope that's how people approach him. Because, you know, as far as I'm concerned, you know, he's a starting wide receiver in this league is what he is. I mean, he's a one. And he's the kind of guy that, you know, that you can count on to do the things that need to be done and done the right way. And he's a great example for our young receivers. And it's a young group. Believe it or not, you know, we brought in Hump, and Hump's a little bit older, but it's a young group. And after Hump, I think Terry's the next senior guy. So it's a good, well, Curtis, excuse me. So it is a good group of guys to follow his example.